I wanted to talk about something important. And it's a topic I cover every year. A lot of these topics I cover every year, and I try to bring up, relevant current information. But this one right here is one that just is near and dear to my heart every single season. And I remember talking about this, it was at a church event up in the UP of Michigan. It would have been probably 2001, 2000. And I was there to talk about something else. I can't remember what it was out, but I had to throw this out there because it really bothers me so much when bow hunters lose deer, and we've all been there. It's a sickening feeling, but boy, there's some that lose a lot higher percentage than other. And what I see often is that a lot of those blood tracking failures could have been avoided by practicing some simple steps right from the beginning, right from the shot, and understand what actually goes through with a deer. What they're going through after they're shot, and if you have a poor hit on them. Fortunately, most of us out there were making good shots the majority of the time, and that's the way it works. You shoot a deer, goes 80 yards, you find it, and that's it. We always want a short blood trail. And a lot of it there's so much focus on the type of broadhead that you have, because guess what? You make a great shot. Everyone shot a double lung, right? And then the deer's gone and lost. It was double lung. I don't know what happened. So I'm going to switch broadhead companies. I'm going to switch to this broadhead. I'm going to get a heavier arrow. I'm going to get a better cut. I'm going to use expandables. I'm going to not use expandables. Whatever the reason. So it's not the broadhead that's the problem. It's not the weight of the arrow that's the problem. That's ridiculous. Our bows are overbowed now for whatever we're using, whatever grain broadhead you're using, whatever grain weight you're using from arrow and broadhead. When you make a shot, it all starts right after you make the shot. Are you making a good decision with getting out of the stand or not? And how are you disrupting that deer? After you make that shot, that deer might have gone. Most of the time they go 100 yards and they're gone within seconds. They die within seconds. That's a great thing. But there's always that chance that they're not. Again, we always assume it's a double lung. So whether you have it on camera, maybe you can zoom back and see. But personally, if I don't see that deer fall and it's before dark, then I'm waiting in that stand till I feel I can sneak away and not spook that deer that potentially could be bedded within 200 yards and get out of there. Now, people say, well, it's raining or the coyotes might get it. Well, I'll tell you what, if you spook it one time, deer don't just run. I don't know if you ever noticed this, but when you spook a deer, and they truly spook out in the woods, they don't run just 200 yards and slow down. They run a half mile. They run a quarter mile. They run 3/4 of a mile, depending on how open it is. They're gone. And so when you spook that deer one time, it doesn't matter if it's coyotes or rain, you're not going to find it either. You're not going to find it. So the most important thing is to understand is that deer will die within 200 to 300 yards if they had adequate cover. That's where you're going to find them unless you spook them. A lot of people, well, we got to a blood trail. He must have got up during the night and walked, and we can't find it. There's no more blood. That's because you spooked him when you went out, got your arrow, checked around for some blood, see what kind of blood it was, and he's gone forever. So practicing patience on the shot is the most critical way to find your deer and make sure you always find a deer. I'm going on there's been deer that I've shot again the next year and killed it, shot again 3 weeks later, shot again 2 weeks later and recovered those deer. And then there's been a couple deer, I hit one in the leg back in maybe 1989, somewhere around there, and we tracked it for about 1.5 miles. Every time it put its foot down, we could find it. And we never caught up to that deer. I'd like to think that it made it. I had one deer that I found on a fence. The neighbor found it about 1/4 mile away, and it still makes me sick. And then I have some deer that a couple friends have shot after I've shot them. A week later, they were non-lethal hits. But then I've had close to 200 deer, 175, whatever it is, 150 that I've shot that have been easy tracking jobs and have not lost. So 3 or 4, a handful that I've lost, a couple that I think might have died and not been recovered out of a lot of deer. And I have a good track record with that because I practice a lot of patience. Real good trick that I can offer you is when you shoot a deer and you're going to leave it, always consider that a liver shot is going to die within 45 minutes to 2 days. A gut shot might live for 5 hours, 2 hours. Intestines could live for a couple days. So we're talking some long periods of time where deer can really make tracks if they know you're after them. So you're purposely practicing enough time to let that deer sit, a lot of times overnight, is a good call if you don't know what happened. So I say that now might be an area that you have a lot of coyotes. Well, one way that I feel over the years, I've left deer overnight and all day long a lot out in the woods. And then I found there an 80-yard blood trail like this one from Kentucky I'll talk about in a second. Been able to recover the meat, and coyotes did not get them because I leave a jacket or a hat or a shirt or something in the area. So I might get down from my stand if I feel I can go around up to that corner before I'm actually exposing myself to where that buck might be, or that deer, that doe that's bedded down and wounded. As close as I feel safely I can get, I'll leave that jacket and get out of there. And rest assured, we left a couple does overnight last night, and I was worried because when I went out there were coyote tracks going right at those does that we had shot the night before. It was 20 degrees that night. The deer were well chilled. We got closer to them, and you could see by leaving our jacket and a hat nearby, as soon as those coyotes got close, they ran the other direction. They smell any kind of human scent, they don't care for it. So leaving a jacket in the woods is a really good idea when you're making that wait and going in there. Think about if it's raining. If it's going to rain and wash away the blood trail, then that deer should be within 200 yards if you made a good shot, even 100 yards. Then talk about this story right here. This is, again, I'm using the Muzzy Trocar HBs this year. What I like is this is a very narrow cutting diameter, so that has a great ability with a chisel point to get through a shoulder bone if you get a bad shot. You never want to shoot at a shoulder. That's very disrespectful to the animal and unethical. But you know, occasionally mistakes happen. What was cool about this is these bleeder blades stay back. They make it through that wound channel. But then these two fixed hard blades that are part of the ferrule right here, it's all one piece. And so I could actually put my finger in there and feel these two blade marks in the shoulder from my Kentucky buck. Here's that bloody, rotten arrow right here. The cool thing about this, bleeder blades are still true. They're still the same. The blade is not bent in any way. That went right through the shoulder and into the top of the heart and hit it. You know, I could honestly say if this was a large expanding head, probably would have just balled up on the outside of the shoulder. I could have had some cut on impact heads. They have a big wide cut. That wide cut could have got hung up in the bone going through. What's the best head? Who knows? When you hit one in soft tissue back in the stomach area and it's expandable, you put a good hole back in, there's a lot more blood loss. So that would be a great one for then. What kind of shot are you gonna make? Are you gonna make it, you make a mistake, hit it in the shoulder, or you make a mistake and hit it back a little bit? Well, there's a broadhead that would be specific towards, it's almost like you have to know which way your bad shot's going to be and adjust accordingly with the broadhead, but you know that's impossible. So what it really takes is not the broadhead, not the arrow, not the weight of the arrow, not even the bow. It's largely the decisions you make after the shot. This Kentucky buck right here, I cracked the shoulder. He flipped around, he ran, kicked up dust. I was really worried. I was sick. I was sick all night. You know, you question how big was the deer that I even shot at? You know, was it a shooter? You know, you don't have that immediate gratification. You can't go up and look at it. Knew it hit the shoulder. We had about 5 to 6 inches of arrow broke off, 2 to 3 inches of the shaft. What it ended up doing is going all the way through the shoulder, down into the top of the heart. It's a 15-yard shot. I'm 20 feet in the air, steep angle. It came out when he ran, and it broke, and the broadhead was still in him with the shaft. He was dead in less than 80 yards. We gave him all night. We went back. It was a shot towards the front end, hit the heart, hit a lung, toast. You know, that deer's done. And because I didn't hit it into those into the back area and the organs, and we were able to save all of the meat from that Kentucky buck, which was awesome. We let him go all night, went out there with an army in the morning, and he was only 75 yards from where the shot was. So that was all a really good thing. Losing deer, it really doesn't have to happen. I know it's hard to really practice some patience, but if you don't hear it fall, Sam, my son, his buck this year, we didn't see it fall. We went back the next morning, we were able to recover the deer, and with the hit that he had on it, I believe if we would have gone out a half hour, there was a chance that we spooked it. Not that we would have, but there was a chance, and if we did, we wouldn't have found him again. That's what it boils down to. Try to really take a lot of pride in that recovery rate of your deer. I know a lot of people are doing so many things, whether it's practicing, trying different arrowhead combinations, but really it boils down to, even if you're poorly practiced and you make a bad shot, even if you're using a broadhead that's not appropriate for the type of hit you had, you know, maybe a small cut on impact head and it goes through the guts or something back and it's making a really small hole, you wish you had an expandable. Likewise in the shoulder, maybe that big, large cutting expandable isn't the best option. Maybe a smaller head like this that can go right through the shoulder is a better option. Who knows? But bottom line is, if you're not practicing patience at the shot and making sure when you go to recover that deer that you made a good shot, then you're going to lose often in the deer woods, because nothing's perfect when it comes to bow hunting. And the one big failure of a lot of bow hunters is pushing a deer too far. Again, they're going to run a half mile, 3/4 mile. You can't find it. If you practice patience after the shot, make smart decisions after the shot, you're going to find your deer more often than not. And that's truly what I want for you this fall. Well, if you made it to the end of this video, you're obviously interested in whitetail habitat solutions, what I have to teach, and you will love my new web class series. The first one is how to design your whitetail property. It's out now. The link is in the description. I invite you to check it out. It's on my website. Can't wait to hear about it.